African History Network, the African History Network, and our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, Imhotep. Okay, so I saw Kyrsten Sinema. It's not Kristen, it's Kyrsten. I saw Kyrsten Sinema's trembling voice speech on the Senate floor, or why she's not for changing filibuster rules to get the voting rights bills passed. And to be honest with you, I'm going to start. Now, her name is spelled Kyrsten. I think I'm going to start spelling her name with 3 Ks instead of 1, but that's another story. So if you've been following, and I posted some articles also on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network, dealing with this as well. So there's one from NBC News that we're going to look at. And then there's also a good one from the Washington Post. Sinema and Manchin confirm opposition to eliminating filibuster, probably dooming Democrats' voting rights. Okay, so the fight continues. The fight continues on this. All right. If anybody's talking about giving up and quitting, then you really weren't involved in this fight in the first place. Okay, because it took 10 years from December 5th, 1955, when the Montgomery bus boycott started. It took 10 years until August 6th, 1965, when the Voting Rights Act was actually signed into law by President Lyndon Johnson. It took 75 years from November 1st, 1890, when Mississippi adopted the Mississippi State, the new Mississippi State Constitution, which had the poll taxes and literacy tests in it, instituted the poll taxes and literacy tests. It took 75 years to get from there to the Voting Rights Act being passed, okay, and signed into law in 1965. So this is a sustained fight, and I think economic withdrawal strategies need to be implemented, especially against a lot of these corporations that keep financing Joe Manchin, Kyrsten Sinema, and the 50 Republicans in the Senate that most of them keep voting against voting rights. So that has to continue. So there needs to be economic withdrawal strategies implemented as well. But I want to go to this first story here, and this was a good piece from blackenterprise.com, and how Black businesses can prosper from targeting a $1 trillion Black culture market. How Black businesses can prosper from targeting a $1 trillion Black culture market. This is from January 10th, 2022, from Black Enterprise. Okay, so if we look at this, article here, let me pull this up. Computer's running slowly. Black businesses may be missing a $1 trillion plus fortune by not increasing efforts to sell goods and services to their own culture, entrepreneur and digital marketing expert Lamar Tyler suggests. Now, Lamar is also he's also a director, and he's directed films dealing with promoting marriage and creating African American wealth, different things like this. And we were a distributor of some of the documentaries that he and his wife Ronnie put out some years ago. What is most stunning is the unrealized amount of money Black businesses may leave behind by not tapping into that market. Now, Selig Center for Economic Growth, they're cited in the piece from CNBC.com. And they said Black buying power was $1.4 trillion in 2019. Black buying power was $1.4 trillion in 2019. That amount is reportedly higher than Mexico's domestic product and is predicted to swell to 1.8 trillion by 2024. Now, usually in most studies, and there's a good article from the Washington Post from a few years ago that deals with how um, 97% of our dollars are spent with people that don't look like us. Basically, 95% with white companies and 2% with non-white companies. 2% with non-white and non-African American companies. Quote, there that means there is massive opportunity for companies and brands that cater to the needs for the African American community. Who better to identify what those needs and gaps are other than Black business owners? Now, we'll continue this on the other side of the break. Listen to the African History Network show. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. All right, stand by. Stand by. Share this broadcast on social media platforms. Invite your friends to tune in also. Bye. How's everybody doing? Back from break in 4 minutes. Stand by. Stand by. Back from break in 2 minutes. Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Thursday, January 13th, 2022, and we are live. Okay, the call-in number is 313-778-7600. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. All right, we're going to go back to this lead story here in just a second. This is a good article from blackenterprise.com, and it's an interview with entrepreneur and digital marketing strategist as well as director, as well as documentary director, Lamar Tyler. And Lamar and his wife, Ronnie Tyler, they have Black and Married with Kids, which is a social media platform that they have. and they've put out a lot of positive documentaries dealing with African American relationships and marriage, promoting marriage, um, the different things like this. Okay, let's go back to this article here. Then I want to get to what happened today in the U.S. Senate regarding the voting, getting the voting rights bills passed. Okay, if we go back and look at, once again, the name of this article, How Black Businesses Can Prosper from Targeting a $1 trillion Black Culture Market. This is from January 10th, 2022 from blackendup.com. Okay, so the article goes on to say everyone thinks it's okay to target Black consumers except Black business owners, Lamar Tyler explained. Everyone thinks it's okay to target Black consumers except Black business owners. And right before the break, the part where we left off on, it says that means there is a massive opportunity. So the Seelig Center for Economic Growth said in 2019 that Black buying power was $1.4 trillion, and that amount is expected to grow to $1.8 trillion by 2020. That means there's a massive opportunity for companies and brands that cater to the needs of the African American community. Who better to identify what those needs and gaps are other than African American business owners? So the key is finding the competitive advantage from the African American culture. And Lamar Tyler offered insights on how African American entrepreneurs can leverage our culture with our businesses and make it a profitable endeavor and use it as part of their marketing mix to reach customers. He went on to say, if you want to take a bite out of $1.4 trillion, you should go after it. And with the current cultural climate, Lamar Tyler pointed out African American consumers are looking for Black owned brands to support and bring into their homes. He says now provides a better opportunity for Black entrepreneurs to achieve that than in previous times. Still, he emphasized that African American owned businesses must still focus on creating products and services that solve consumers' problems, And this is really extremely important because I taught entrepreneurship for at least 7 years. And entrepreneurs are those that solve problems other people can't solve, and they do it for profit. Okay. The entrepreneurs are those that solve problems other people can't solve, and they do it for a profit. He said you can't build a business on support-based purchases alone. You can't build a business on support-based purchases alone. You need to offer a solid solution. The fact that you're Black owned is a bonus that the customer is looking for. So you want to find this deals with finding your competitive advantage. What can you do that other people can't do, or what comes to you easily that other people find hard? But what solutions do your products or services solve? A compassionate and practical entrepreneur, Lamar Tyler, knows his business. He has been cited nationally as a top 100 mover and shaker in the Black community, with former President Barack Obama, Michelle Obama, and power couples like Will and Jada Pinkett Smith, and Beyonce and Jay-Z. I've interviewed him before years ago on the African History Network show also. Now he's the creator and co-founder of the international business network Traffic, Sales, and Profit, TSP, the International Business Network, Traffic, Sales, and Profit. Now it's a highly regarded community of African American entrepreneurs, providing them answers to help drive more website traffic, generate extra online sales, and boost business profitability. With a network of over 35,000 members, it offers businesses It offers business education, coaching, and consulting among its services. Now, in 2021, the firm's parent company, Tyler New Media was on the Inc. 5000 list of the country's fastest growing privately held companies. And in 2020, it was awarded for generating over $10 million in cumulative sales using ClickFunnels software platform. Tyler and his wife, Ronnie, have been selected finally Black Enterprises Family Business of the Year. Okay. Now from July 2019 to July 2020, 91 Black-owned businesses in the TSP Mastermind program worked collectively to generate more than $49 million in sales. Okay, from July 2019 to July 2020, roughly that 1 year period of time, 91 African American business owners in the TSP Mastermind program worked collectively to generate more than $49 million in sales, despite being impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic during that period of time. Now, in June of 2022, this June, TSP will host a 3-day sales and marketing conference for Black business owners to help them learn about new strategies. I'm going to reach out to Lamar because I want to get him on the show also. Lamar Tyler mentioned that some of TSP's clients had some of their best performing years ever during the COVID-19 pandemic because they took advantage of a shift in the marketplace. So you have to look at these trends that are taking place, these shifts in the marketplace, see how you can carve out a niche market, exploit your competitive advantages, and take advantage. Okay, because we saw a lot of businesses shut down during really like the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. But we also read numerous stories of African Americans taking the money from the COVID-19 checks, the stimulus checks. We saw stories of them taking that money and launching businesses also at a time when many businesses were shutting down and going out of business. Okay, so Tyler mentioned that some of TSP's clients had some of their best performing years ever during the pandemic because they took advantage of a shift in the marketplace and provided products and services online that met the needs of consumers stuck at home. He offered tips African American businesses may do well to consider when when trying to access or gain a larger share of the Black culture market. Okay, one, find out what specific needs or challenges your clients or potential clients have that you can solve. It's about understanding how to solve problems, identifying problems, and understanding how to solve problems. It's always about them and never about you. Two, think of the fastest way to create that product or service and get them to the market. You can't validate if it is good or not until people are willing to pay you for it. Three, one, have customers, focus on how you can acquire more customers either through advertising partnerships or organic growth via platforms like social media. And four, as customers are coming in, spend time creating a path to get them to return and spend repeatedly. So return customers, and also you want to increase the increase your average ticket sales as well, your average revenue per ticket or average revenue per sale as well. Five, once you have these processes up and working, properly focus on automating them and building out systems. This allows you to remove yourself from the process and how workers to handle it. And in developing systems, processes of how you go through and how you fill orders, processes for dealing with tasks, things like this is really important in businesses, because you have to be able to duplicate that and be able to teach that to employees so your business can grow also. So check out the rest of this article here from blackenterprise.com, how Black businesses can prosper from targeting $1 trillion Black culture market. This is from January 10th, 2022 by Jeffrey McKinney for blackenterprise.com. All right, visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com also. And you can register for the online history classes I teach on Saturdays and Sundays. And you can follow us on our social media platforms also. You listen to the African History Network show. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. Stand by. Stand by. Back from break in 4 minutes. How's everybody doing? Okay, follow us on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, and our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP. Stand by, everybody. Back from break in 4 minutes. Stand by. Who still needs to register for the online classes I teach on Saturdays and Sundays? And this class is Saturday, January 15th, from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. Visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. We have the information right on the homepage of our website. Back from break in 2 minutes.
On the African History Network show, we deal with current events in history and politics, education, economic empowerment, entrepreneurship, relationships, love, sex, health issues, and much, much more. Unfortunately, many people confuse what racism is. Racism is a power structure. It was laws and policies that put us in this predicament. It's going to be laws and policies that take us out. So when you control the radius of a man or woman's thoughts, you can control the compass of his or her actions, because the mind can't do or teach what it doesn't know.
We have it all on 910 AM Superstation. 910, the Superstation, Detroit's only African-American talk radio.
Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation, the Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Thursday, January 13th, 2022, and we are live. Okay, I want to go to this next story here. So I was following the comments from Senator Kyrsten Sinema, and I spell her name with 3 Ks now, from Arizona, on the Senate floor today, almost tearful about why she is against changing the filibuster rules to pass the Voting Rights Acts that she says she supports. She supports the Voting Rights Act. She signed on to vote for them, but she's not for changing Senate rules to get the bills passed, not for changing filibuster rules. And we're not talking about just doing away with the filibuster altogether. Do a carve out or something. She's against all that. So I want to go to let's do this, Shakita. We're going to go to clip number I want to go to this article first, and then we're going to go to clip number 1. Clip number 1 is Kyrsten Sinema almost crying on the Senate floor. We're going to that in just a second from MSNBC. But Senator President Joe Biden spoke to the Democratic Senate caucus today, okay, behind closed doors. Then he had a private meeting Thursday evening at the White House with Senator Joe Manchin and Senator Kyrsten Sinema to also deal with the voting rights. Okay, so you'll hear more about that meeting tomorrow. But I want to go to I want to pull this up here. All right. So if we look at this first article here quickly from NBC News, this one here is Biden voices uncertainty about passing voting rights bills after meeting with Democrats. Okay, Biden voices uncertainty about passing voting rights bills after meeting with Democrats. Now, the fight still continues on this. Okay, Biden said, "I hope." Biden said, "I hope we can get this done." Biden told reporters on Capitol Hill following the meeting. But the honest to God answer is, I don't know whether we can get this done. Okay, now keep in mind, you have basically 50 obstructionist Republicans in the Senate. We know the only Republican that voted to proceed to a debate about the John Lewis Voting Rights Act was Senator Lisa Murkowski of Alaska. Okay, and that wasn't even voting for the bill to pass. That was voting to go to the next step to have a debate on the Senate floor for the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. President Joe Biden on Thursday expressed uncertainty over whether his party would be able to pass voting rights legislation through Congress after he emerged from a closed-door luncheon with Senate Democrats. Despite his attempt at making a direct appeal to Democrats, Biden appeared less confident than before about overcoming hurdles of getting the measures approved. Now, this was after he spoke to Senate Democrats in the Senate. It was this evening that he had the meeting at the White House with Manchin and Sinema. Now, this meeting that he had with Senate Democrats, this was after Kyrsten Sinema was on the Senate floor today and took about an hour to explain why she's against changing Senate rules and changing filibuster rules. And there's a good piece from Vox.com today that's an interview with Norm Ornstein that deals with how Kyrsten Sinema's filibuster speech relied on myths about bipartisanship. We'll go to that next. But if we look quickly here at this article from the Washington Post, Sinema and Manchin confirm opposition to eliminating filibuster, probably dooming Democrats' voting rights push. But once again, if you actually understand the history of voting rights, like I said, it took 75 years to get from the new Mississippi Constitution being adopted in 1890. It took 75 years to get from that to the Voting Rights Act of 1965. It took 10 years to get from the Montgomery bus boycott that started Monday morning, December 5th, 1955. It took 10 years to get from there to August 1965 and the Voting Rights Act being signed into law. Now, Democrats' hopes of finally pushing through voting rights legislation after months of Republican opposition appeared to be fatally wounded Thursday as two Democratic senators announced they would not support changing Senate rules that have long allowed a minority of senators to block legislation. The fresh statements from Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia and Kyrsten Sinema came as President Joe Biden traveled to Capitol Hill to deliver a final forceful appeal for action, putting an exclamation point on their party's long and so far fruitless effort to counter restrictive Republican passed state voting laws. The trip was rendered futile before Biden even set foot in the presidential limousine Thursday, when Kyrsten Sinema explained her views in a midday floor speech. Senator Manchin issued a written statement outlining his position shortly after President Biden left. Leaving the room after a lunch meeting that stretched over an hour, Biden acknowledged doubts that the push for federal voting legislation would ultimately be successful. Okay, now the imminent failure of the voting effort was another blow to an administration that has been struggling to deal with a wave of new coronavirus infections, persistent high inflation, and new foreign policy challenges abroad, including a potential Russian invasion of eastern Ukraine. Not long after Biden left Capitol Hill, the Supreme Court invalidated his national vaccine or testing mandate for private businesses. Still, Democrats vowed to move forward with a floor confrontation in the coming days that threatens to bring their year-long quest to counter Republican passed state voting restrictions to an especially frustrating end. So the vote has been postponed, looks like basically till the 18th. To the recess has been suspended. Senator Chuck Schumer said that today. It looks like on the 18th, Tuesday the 18th, it looks like a vote is going to take place there. You have a storm that's coming to Washington, D.C. So they're going to postpone the floor vote because you have a storm, and also Senator Brian Schatz of Democrat of Hawaii is out sick with COVID-19. He's infected with COVID-19, so he cannot be there for the vote. In an apparent last-ditch attempt to salvage the effort, Senator Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema traveled to the White House late Thursday for a private meeting with President Joe Biden. Afterward, the White House, a White House official spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss the meeting, called it a quote-unquote candid and respectful exchange of views about voting rights, end quote. Since then, the White House has put the it has put the statements from this meeting, is put that at whitehouse.gov. Okay. I have to go back and check that out. I was on whitehouse.gov a few minutes before coming on the show, looking at some information. But they put the comments and remarks from the meeting. That's at whitehouse.gov. Now, there appeared to be little hope that either Manchin or Sinema will reverse their longstanding public positions defending the filibuster, the Senate's 60-vote supermajority rule, as a tool to facilitate bipartisan cooperation and guard against wild swings in federal policy. Shakita, let's go to clip number one. This is Kyrsten Sinema almost crying on the Senate floor today, because I think she knows there's going to be a huge backlash against this BS that she was spreading today. Let's go to clip one. From MSNBC.
We can get this done. Is this mic on? I guess, anyway. And I'm not sure either. But anyway, I hope we can get this done. But I'm not sure. But one thing for certain, like every other major civil rights bill that came along, if we missed the first time, we could come back and try it a second time. We missed this time. And the state legislative bodies continue to change the law, not as to who can vote, but who gets to count the vote. Count the vote. It's about election subversion, not just whether or not people get to vote. Who counts the vote? That's what this is about. That's what makes this so different than anything else we've ever done. I don't know that we can get it done, but I know one thing. As long as I have a breath in me, As long as I'm in the White House, as long as I'm engaged at all, I'm going to be fighting to change the way these legislatures have moving. Thank you.
Okay, I think it advanced to the next clip. Try to refresh that clip, because the first clip should have been a Kyrsten Sinema, clip number 1. So we're coming up on a break. We're gonna let you hear this BS that Kyrsten Sinema was saying on the Senate floor today. Then we're gonna I want to deal with this piece from Vox.com, where Norm Ornstein is interviewed, and he goes through and dismantles her argument and deals with how her speech on the filibuster relied on myths about bipartisanship. You listen to the African History Network show. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. Stand by, everybody. Okay, if you like this type of information, you can support the African History Network. $ the AHN show through Cash App. $ the AHN show through Cash App, and also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN show. Stand by. Visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. You can register for the online classes I teach on Saturdays and Sundays. From the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. And ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Maafa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. So we have a bundle pack. You can register for both classes for only $70. Oh, hell, what the fuck is this? We do the sessions live. All the sessions are archived and recorded. You can go back and watch it anytime. Okay, we just posted a link there. Stand by. And from breaking in 1 minute. Stand by. And from breaking 1 minute. Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation, the Future Radio. All right. So do we have the clip of Kyrsten Sinema queued up? Let's go to clip number 1. This is this BS she was saying today on the Senate floor.
To contest these laws in court and to invest significant resources into these states to better organize and stop efforts to restrict access at the ballot box. And I strongly support and will continue to vote for legislative responses to address these state laws, including the Freedom to Vote Act and the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act that the Senate is currently considering. I support these bills because they strengthen Americans' access to the ballot box, and they better ensure that Americans' votes are counted fairly. It is through elections that Americans make their voices heard, select their representatives, and guide the future of our countries and our community. These bills help treat the symptoms of the disease, but they do not fully address the disease itself. And while I continue to support these bills, I will not support separate actions that worsen the underlying disease of division infecting our country. The debate over the Senate 60-vote threshold shines a light on our broader challenges. There's no need for me to restate my long-standing support for the 60-vote threshold to pass legislation. There's no need for me to restate its role protecting our country from wild reversals in federal policy. It is a view I've held during my years serving in both the U.S. House and the Senate, and it is the view I continue to hold. It is the belief that I have shared many times in public settings and in private settings. Senators of both parties have offered ideas, including some that would earn my support, to make this body more productive, more deliberative, more responsive to Americans' needs, and a place of genuine debate about our country's pressing issues. And while this week's harried discussions about Senate rules are but a poor substitute for what I believe could have and should have been a thoughtful public debate at any time over the past year.
All right. So that was Kyrsten Sinema, and I've started spelling her name with 3 Ks. That was her almost trembling voice and almost tearful on the Senate floor today, dealing with why she does not support changing the filibuster rules to get the voting rights bills passed that she says she supports. She says she supports the voting rights bills, but I mean, this is almost like lynching John Lewis. I mean, to really be honest, this is like lynching John Lewis. Let's go to, I want to go to clip 3. Shakita, we're going to squeeze this in. This is from the Readout, Joanne Reed, today, MSNBC. And this is the Founders Day for Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, founded Howard University. So shout out to the Deltas as well. But this clip here, and do we have, did I send you that one from the Readout? Okay, I don't think I sent that one. Okay, we'll play that after we're off the air. After we're off 9:10 a.m. I'll play that clip from the Readout. Let me go to this article right here. This is from Vox.com. Everybody read this. This is from Vox.com. And this was an interview with Norm Ornstein. Norm Ornstein is he's a political scientist and at the American Enterprise Institute. And this came out today, January 13th. This deals with, it's entitled Kyrsten Sinema's opposition to filibuster reform rests on a myth. Kyrsten Sinema's opposition to filibuster reform rests on a myth. And it deals with this speech that she gave today. Norm Ornstein, a political scientist at the American Enterprise Institute, has emphasized, however, that the belief that the filibuster fuels bipartisanship is one of many myths about the filibuster rule. The filibuster requires most bills to get 60 votes in order to proceed in the Senate, but it's often used as a tool to obstruct legislation, not foster legislation, okay, and not foster bipartisanship. So both Manchin and Sinema are wrong, blatantly wrong. Norm Ornstein told Vox.com, certainly there was a time when we had well-established norms in the Senate that fostered problem solving and bipartisanship. That time is long gone. That time is long gone. So since Democrats took control of Congress following the 2020 elections, Republicans have killed many of their bills. Democrats are now attempting again to pass major voting rights bills, the Freedom to Vote Act and the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, and they are again expected to be filibustered by the GOP. And as Representative James Clyburn said yesterday at the press conference that the Congressional Black Caucus had to blast Joe Manchin, as Senator James Clyburn said yesterday about Senator Joe Manchin, the Freedom to Vote Act is Joe Manchin's voting rights bill that Joe Manchin wrote the majority of after after they couldn't get the votes for the previous voting rights bill. Joe Manchin said he could put together a bill and he could get 10 Republicans to vote for it. No Republicans voted for Joe Manchin's own bill, and now Joe Manchin is filibustering his own voting rights bill. Now, most Democrats, including President Joe Biden, have had enough. The party's now pushing for filibuster reform, and a vote on altering the rule is imminent. But moderates, Senator Joe Manchin, Democrat of West Virginia, and Sinema of Arizona have resisted calls to make changes. Thursday, Kyrsten Sinema made it clear she wants the filibuster to stay the way it is. Now, very quickly, and we're about to lose 9:10 a.m. WFDF. I've said before, I think it was a mistake, even though I love John Lewis and he wrote the majority of the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. I think it was a mistake to name the bill after him. I think the bill should have been named after somebody like Susan B. Anthony, white woman who fought for women's voting rights, especially white women's voting rights. Why? Because you put the 19th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution front and center if you name it after Susan B. Anthony. And African Americans make up 3.5% of the population in West Virginia and 5.2% of the population in Arizona. Okay, but white people make up 51% of the population in Arizona, and I'm not sure that I know that the majority of the population in West Virginia. You broaden when you name the bill. If you name the bill after Susan B. Anthony or somebody like Susan B. Anthony, you broaden the focus of it and broaden who is actually impacted by these harmful bills being passed. As long as this is looked at as a black issue, it's much harder to get the bill passed. Okay, and we're going to go to the clip from the readout today here in just a second. Those watching on Facebook and YouTube, keep watching. Visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. You can register for the online classes I teach on Saturdays and Sundays. And I'll be in West Virginia, Joe Manchin's state. I'll be in West Virginia on Monday at Davis and Elkins College, speaking there. We'll have the information on our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Right now, it's correct wrong behavior is not over till we win. Wakanda forever. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Peace. All right, stand by. Okay, so this is from I posted this on our Facebook fan page, on my personal page and our Facebook fan page, the African History Network. This is understanding strategy. Now, this is from the readout with Joanne Reed today, and we're going to go to that clip. I thought I sent it to Shakita, but I didn't. It's been like really busy today, and I'm getting everything together to be able to head out of here. I leave on Sunday. Be able to head out of here on Sunday, and I'm working on my presentation also. I'm working on I have to teach a online class on Saturday. This is from the readout today where they discuss this with Joanne Reed, and these are the demographics of Arizona. Okay, now keep in mind, Arizona was the last state in the union to recognize Dr. King Day as a federal holiday. Also, you remember Public Enemy had the song "By the Time I Get to Arizona," and that was about Arizona refusing to recognize Dr. King Day as a federal holiday. That's Arizona. So if we look at this here, hold on, let me silence this. So if we look at this here, hold on, just let me cue this up. All right. So if we look at these demographics here on Arizona, white people make up 54.1% of the population of Arizona. Hispanics make up, or Latinos, 31.7%. African Americans, 5.2%. 5.2% of the population in Arizona. Asian American, Pacific Islanders, 4%. American Indian, Alaska Native, 5.3%. There's more American Indian, Alaska Natives in Arizona than African Americans. And we know Arizona used to be part of Mexico. That it became part of the U.S. because of the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo of 1848, which is the treaty that ended the Mexican-American War. And then in West Virginia, African Americans make up 3.2% of the population of West Virginia. So we knew the John Lewis Voting Rights Act would pass the House of Representatives, but you got to get through the damn near all-white Senate. If you name the bill after somebody like Susan B. Anthony, then you broaden who is really impacted by the bill and and you draw more attention to it about who is impacted by these voter suppression bills being passed through Republican-dominated state legislatures. And then what this does is this brings in the women's reproductive rights activists. This brings in the women's rights activists to show, look, this is what you have at stake. This deals with you too. This brings in white college students, white female college students. This brings the 26th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, puts that front and center, also puts the 19th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution front and center, the 19th Amendment of 1920, the 26th Amendment of 1971, which lowered the minimum age to vote from 21 down to 18. So then so if you put Susan B. Anthony's name on the bill, now it forces Kyrsten Sinema to go tell white women in Arizona she's not going to protect their voting rights. You put Susan B. Anthony's name on the bill, it forces Joe Manchin to tell white women in West Virginia he's not going to protect their voting rights. I love John Lewis, but you put John Lewis's name on the bill, African Americans, it really frames it as a black issue, an African American issue, which it is not. It impacts everybody. But when you put John Lewis's name on the bill and you attach it to Dr. King and the civil rights movement and all this stuff, you box yourself in and you reduce your ability to really explain how this impacts everybody, because it does. So it makes it easier to push it over to the side. And I sit back and look at it. I'm like, what the hell are they doing? I don't understand this. Okay. Well, all right. I would have named that to Susan B. Anthony. And then let these white people go tell these white women, the hell with you and your voting rights, and see what happens to you. That's what I would have done. But okay. Now Biden's speech at Atlanta Center University, they're in Atlanta, and Clark Atlanta and Morehouse. Biden's speech was good. It was, and yeah, I don't have a problem with him talking about the Civil War and Jefferson Davis and Lincoln and all that. No, that's fine. But I would have named the bill. You named the bill after Susan B. Anthony, because all you got to do, let's go back. Let's go back to January 2017, after the inauguration. Trump was sworn in. Remember the women's rights activists? They had protests all across the country, largely white women's groups. It was African American women's groups also. White women, they were pissed the hell off. It was like 1 million of them all across. It was like a Saturday. Oh, you remember that? All across the country. They organized, they rallied. You need to tap into that. You need to tap into that anger right there. Connect that anger that they had. Connect that to voting rights and show how these Republicans in Republican state legislatures are taking away your voting rights. Connect that to the women's reproductive rights. Connect that to Mississippi and the abortion laws, in Texas and abortion laws. Connect all that together to force this through. See, if you put Susan B. Anthony's name on the bill and make this about the 19th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, which gave women the right to vote, especially white women. Yeah, the 15th Amendment is good, but you ain't going to win with the 15th Amendment. You need to deal with the 19th Amendment. And women are the majority population in the U.S. in the first damn place. I don't understand none of this. I don't understand a lot of these strategies that they're doing. I'm like, are you trying to win or just keep fighting? Is your goal to win or to just keep fighting? If you know that they knew from the beginning that Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema were going to be problems. Black people are 5.2% of the population in Arizona and 3.5% of the population in West Virginia. 54.1% of the population in Arizona is white. I would have named the bill after Susan B. Anthony. She's white. But okay, all right. So let's go back to this from Vox.com because I have a million things to do before I leave to go to Joe Manchin's state of West Virginia. Now, the other thing is, if you live in West Virginia and Arizona, and I don't know if Joe Manchin will be there at Davis and Elkins College. I don't know if he's going to be there. I doubt it. If any of these two or any Republicans bring their asses to a Dr. King Day celebration, you need to let them have it. Seriously, because you can't come to the Dr. King Day celebration and praise Dr. King, but you work to dismantle his legacy the rest of the year. Same thing with John Lewis. They can't come there talking about John Lewis and you working to dismantle John Lewis's legacy. This is like a lynching of John Lewis. So let's look at this here. This is an interview with Norm Ornstein that Vox.com did today, dealing with Kyrsten Sinema's opposition to filibuster reform rests on a myth. Okay, so let's see. Okay. Since Democrats, we did that. Most Democrats until President Joe Biden have had enough. Okay, we talked about that as well. In a conversation this week, Norm Ornstein spoke with Vox.com about why this idea is mistaken, why the Senate needs a rule change, and why many arguments against it deserve more scrutiny. This transcript has been edited and condensed for clarity, so we ain't going to go through the whole thing. You can read all this yourself. I just want to focus in on this here. So he's interviewed by Lee Zhou, or Zhou, Z-H-O-U. You've pushed for filibuster reform for a long time, but such calls have intensified in recent months as states have passed new laws restricting voting rights. What is different to you about the political moment we're in right now? Norm Ornstein said, first, we're finally seeing, I think, a level of frustration over the misuse of the filibuster, because you're dealing with filibuster abuse. We talked about this on yesterday's show. You're dealing with filibuster abuse, not as infrequently, or was it Tuesday's show? Tuesday's show when we dealt with Biden and Kamala Harris, Vice President Kamala Harris in Atlanta. I think it was Tuesday's show. Not as infrequently applied to by a minority on an issue about which they feel very, very strongly, but as a cynical weapon of mass obstruction. Now, on yesterday's show, when I played the interview that Chris Hayes did with Senator Cory Booker on I think he did that interview on Tuesday. And Senator Cory Booker was explaining why he changed his position on changing filibuster rules. Because before, Cory Booker was against changing filibuster rules, as many Democrats were, because they know they had used the filibuster or the threat of using the filibuster numerous times under the Trump administration, under 4 years of the Trump administration. And Cory Booker talked about that in the interview we played on yesterday's show. Okay. But then he talked about why he changed his mind, and he talked about filibuster abuse and how a lot of good bills are being blocked in the Senate because of the filibuster, like gun reform and different things like this, passing mandatory background checks and all different types of bills like this are being blocked in the Senate. All right, now, and that starts, so Norm Ornstein goes on to say, and that started with increased vengeance in the Obama years by Republicans against President Obama in the Senate. But it has continued, and it means if you don't have more than 60 of your own party members, you're just dramatically limited in what you can do in policy terms. And it's basically because you have a minority party that's not looking to solve problems. They're looking to be obstructionists. You have a minority party that's not looking to solve problems. See, this is why when Craig Melvin for NBC interviewed interviewed Vice President Kamala Harris in the past couple of days, and she said, you can't just hold Manchin and Sinema accountable. You got to hold the 50 Republicans in the Senate who are obstructionists. You got to hold them accountable also. It can't just be Manchin and Sinema. No, those 50, because there's 16 Republicans who are in the Senate right now who voted to reauthorize the Voting Rights Act in 2006, and Mitch McConnell was one of them. There's 16 Republicans that are in the Senate right now who voted in 2006, which was the last time the Voting Rights Act was reauthorized. They voted in 2006 to reauthorize the Voting Rights Act. 16 Republicans that are in the Senate right now who voted in 2006 to reauthorize the Voting Rights Act, but they're not voting for either one of these Voting Rights Acts to date. And Mitch McConnell is one of them. Mitch McConnell in 2006 voted to reauthorize the Voting Rights Act. So the focus can't just be on Manchin and Sinema. You got to hold accountable these traitors Republicans as well, especially those 16 that have voted previously to reauthorize the Voting Rights Act. There was let me see something here. I have this graphic. Did I post it? I think I have this graphic here. Yeah. Okay. This is from MSNBC, and I forgot whose show it was. I did a screenshot of it. We're going to post this so you can see. So if any of these people are your senators, see, we should be blowing up the phone lines. And I got an email from the NAACP because I'm on. I guess I need to. I think I had a membership before I donated to them, and they keep sending me mail. So, but they said this weekend we need to call our senators. We need to do more than that. Call, email, but there needs to be economic pressure put on these corporations that have financed these senators, but also the 150 corporations back in July of 2021 who signed on to a letter saying that they supported passing the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. And all these corporations are silent right now. They have laryngitis and amnesia. They need to be held accountable as well. This one right here from NBC News. Let me pull this up here. More than 150 companies back update to Voting Rights Act. Major businesses like Pepsi, Macy's, IKEA, and Nestle signed on to a letter supporting the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. Now a lot of these companies, I guarantee you, a lot of these companies this weekend, Dr. King Day, they're going to put out BS statements and all this stuff. And we love Dr. King and support King and John Lewis and all this stuff. We miss John. They can support this stuff. Well, why are you silent? Why aren't you leveraging the economic power that you have to push through the John Lewis Voting Rights Act that you said that you support the passing of? It'd be different if they didn't sign on to this letter. It'd be different if they did not express supporting the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act in the past. That'd be different. But no, you came out and publicly supported it, but you're silent now when you have a metaphorical lynching of John Lewis taking place. Now this is from July 14th, 2021. NBCnews.com. Okay. More than 150 companies, including Pepsi, Amazon, Target, through their support behind updating the Voting Rights Act in a letter released Wednesday in July 2021. The signatories, all U.S. employers, urged Congress to enact the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, legislation that will restore a key provision of the 1965 law that was stripped out by the Supreme Court, Shelby County versus Holder 2013 U.S. Supreme Court case. All these corporations, they should be talking to the Republican obstructionists in the Senate. Many of them, many of these corporations have donated to those Republicans. They should be talking to the 16 Republicans in the Senate who voted in 2006 to renew the Voting Rights Act and are not voting for any of these Voting Rights Acts now. The bill would again require jurisdictions with a history of discrimination to get permission from the Department of Justice to make changes to their elections using an updated formula to determine those jurisdictions. The letter made no mention of Republican efforts to tighten voting rules across the country after Benedict Donald, the traitor-in-chief, after his election loss. They focus instead on deep inequities exposed by the 2020 contest and how our elections are run. Read the rest of this article here. See, what I want to know is, did all these companies go out of business and nobody told me? Did all these companies go out of business and nobody told me? And this can't be an issue of, well, you know, insurrectionists and domestic terrorists, they use Pepsi also. Oh, good people on both sides. No, that's not gonna work. Okay, so I just posted this here on our fan page. Let me see here. Let me pull this up here. Can we zoom in on this? All right. Current. Let's look at this here. Now, if they were in the Senate in 2006, then you have to ask yourself the question, how old are some of these people? But the Senate term is 6 years. So this was from the readout with Joanne Reed. Okay. This is from the readout. And can everybody see this? You may not be able to read all the names. So I'm going to pull this up and look at this. All right. So you got Moscow Mitch McConnell. Now, these are 16 current Republican senators. Notice they're all white, who in 2006 voted to reauthorize the Voting Rights Act. None of them are voting for any of these voting rights bills today. I wonder why. Senator Mitch McConnell, Senator Chuck Grassley, Senator Richard Shelby of Alabama, Senator Susan Collins of Maine, Senator Richard Burr, Senator Jim Inhofe, Senator punk-ass Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina, spineless Lindsey Graham, Senator John Thune, Senator John Cornyn of Texas, Marsha Blackburn of Tennessee, Senator Roy Blunt of Missouri. Senator Roy Blunt, he's not running for re-election. He's retiring. Senator John Boozman. Then you've got Senator Shelley Moore Capito, who is the other senator from West Virginia. She's a Republican because West Virginia is a very red state. Donald Trump won West Virginia in 2016 and 2020 by about 40 points. West Virginia is a very red state. The other senator from West Virginia is a Republican, Shelley Moore Capito. She ain't voting for neither one of these neither one of these voting rights bills. Senator Jerry Moran, Senator Roger Wicker, and Senator Mike Crapo. Okay, 16 Republican senators who are in the Senate right now in 2006 voted to renew the Voting Rights Act because, the vote in 2006 in the Senate was 98-0. It wasn't a partisan issue. It wasn't a political issue. They all overwhelmingly supported the bill. It passed 98-0. Now, none of these Republicans support passing the bill. Senator Lisa Murkowski of Alaska did vote for the John Lewis Voting Rights Act to proceed to the next step to a debate on the Senate floor. So this is why these corporations who signed on to support the passing of the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, well, you need to talk to these obstructionists here, these Republican obstructionists. All right, now let's go back to this here. Okay, this is the interview with Norm Ornstein that Vox.com did today. Well, it came out today. And it's basically because you have a minority party that's not looking to solve problems, but to figure out how to block anything of significance in your own agenda and make sure problems fester so that they have more traction to gain political advantage. And this is dealing with the myths regarding the filibuster that was in the speech that Kyrsten Sinema gave today on the Senate floor. That's different. It's been different, really, for the last almost 15 years, and it's reached a point of deep frustration. But the trigger, obviously, now is the voting rights issue, and that's the second reason. We see this with a number of Democrats who have been reluctant to pass, who've been reluctant in the past to consider rules change. People like Senator Mark Warner and Senator Chris Coons and Senator Angus King and Senator Tom Carper. Well, almost all of them have changed now and say they are for changing filibuster rules or doing a carve out or something to be able to get the voting rights bills passed. They've all changed. Okay, because it was a number. So as we talked about on yesterday's show. So and I saw today, what's his name? On MSNBC, Dr. Jason Johnson, who half the time Jason don't know what the hell he's talking about, but he said the activists were saying they should Biden should have been pushing to get the voting rights bill passed 6 months ago. 6 months ago, it was a whole lot more Democrats who were against changing the filibuster rules. That's what nobody wants to talk about. Now, we've dealt with that here on this show. It wasn't 2 people that was against it. It was more than 8 or 9 6 months ago. That's what people keep missing. You tried that 6 months ago. It wasn't going to go anywhere. 1, 2, you could have risked losing some of those Democrats that you needed to get the infrastructure bill passed, the $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill passed. It was more than 8 or 9 who were against changing the filibuster rules 6 months ago. One of the things that has changed, that's caused them to change their opinion, is the information coming out of the January 6th committee and showing how well planned that attempted insurrection was and how deep it went. That's one of the things that's caused them. And then also at the same time, seeing what's taking place in these Republican state legislatures and passing these voter restriction bills. But also another thing that's taking place is the attacks on poll workers and attacks on people on state county boards being pushed out and things like this. And Republicans taking over those state county boards, and they're seeing how is being set up at the state level to overturn election results. So all these things coming together, what's coming out of the January 6th committee, what's taking place at the state level in these Republican dominated states, all this is coming together, and it's causing them to realize, okay, look, we got to change the filibuster rules. There was a whole lot more Democrats 6 months ago who were against changing rules. You try to push that then, it wasn't going to work at all, period. That's what a lot of people don't understand. Okay. But we've talked about that here on this show, so you all know this. All right, let's see here. Okay, so there's a belief now that we face an existential threat. There's a belief now that we face an existential threat, and it's a belief that is grounded very deeply in the reality of the moment. We had this violent insurrection on January 6th, which is a continuation of the Civil War and a continuation of the Compromise of 1877 and the what took place post Reconstruction, and the white supremacists in the southern states taking back over the statewide political positions and statewide government. That January 6th insurrection is a continuation of all of that. Leading up to it was 2 months of an effort by a president and his cronies, which includes, after all, a very substantial number of elected officials in Congress and in states and some elsewhere, trying to overturn the election results of an election. Now, it's keep in mind, it's in an election where a number of Republicans won re-election or won their races. Republicans are not saying any of those elections that Republicans won were fraudulent. And Republicans were on the same ballot as the top ticket, Joe Biden and Donald Trump. Republicans are not saying any of those Republicans picked up seats in the House of Representatives. They're not saying any of those races were fraudulent. Only the top ticket, but your name is on the same ballot. That's what doesn't make sense. They know they're lying. They know it doesn't make sense. But they've raised so much money in 2 months after the election, November election. In 2 months, Trump and his allies, they raised $250 million to fund filing lawsuits trying to overturn election results. They can't now go tell those losers and suckers that donated to them, we lied to you, and we knew all along we lied to you, and you donated money to us. They can't admit, they have to go with the bit. They can't admit the truth now. Oh, we lied. We knew we were lying. We just, you said, just write it off on your taxes or something. We raised $250 million on a lie in 2 months. We knew we were lying to you. But, they can't come now and tell the truth. Which includes, after all, a very substantial number of elected officials in Congress and in states and some elsewhere trying to overturn the results of an election, and that it wasn't a one-off. What we're seeing with all these laws now being enacted and pushed in states are attempts to make sure that in states, for example, where honest election officials, including Republican election officials, did their duty, that you have the ability to remove them when where you had election workers both on election day and counting the votes afterwards doing their job, that you find ways to intimidate them and keep that from happening. See, all this is taking place at the state level, state and county. And a lot of Democrats who 9 months ago were against changing filibuster rules, against changing Senate rules to make it easy to pass bills, against things like that, they're seeing all this take place and they're saying, no, we have to change the filibuster. That you find ways to intimidate them and keep that from happening, that you can have partisan bodies overturn election results that they don't like, that you can have that you can suppress votes you don't like. And that's happening in critical places around the country. And it requires some guardrails around the system. And that's happening in critical places around the country. And it requires some guardrails around the system. They're not going to be perfect, but you have two things: the Freedom to Vote Act, Joe Manchin's Freedom to Vote Act, and he's filibustering his own bill, and the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. The Freedom to Vote Act was put together in a compromise drafted significantly by Senator Joe Manchin with Senator Amy Klobuchar and others, Amy Klobuchar of Minnesota, and others participating, like Senator Raphael Warnock of Georgia, so that Senator Joe Manchin could have something that he believed was not as wide-ranging and far-reaching as the original Protect the Vote Act. But that he was confident that this could be made bipartisan because, of course, there are Republicans who believe in the rule of law and fair elections. They're just too cowardly to do anything about it. And he's gotten zero. Joe Manchin's gotten zero. Joe Manchin said he could get 10 Republicans to vote for his Freedom to Vote Act. He didn't get one. He said he could put together a voting rights bill. He could get 10 Republicans to vote for it. He didn't get one to vote for it. So they're seeing that guardrail just isn't working to apply unless you can change the Senate rules. And then you've got the John Lewis Voting Rights Restoration Act. And keeping in mind that, that's basically trying to restore the core element of the act that previously had been revised in 2006, eviscerated by Shelby County versus Holder U.S. Supreme Court case of 2013, and then the Brnovich decision, among others. And you have the 2006 act that passed unanimously in the Senate, 98-0. Its co-sponsors included the likes of Senator Mitch McConnell and Senator Chuck Grassley in 2006 to reauthorize the Voting Rights Act. And none of them support these Voting Rights Acts now. So how do you do anything? You either let it go and endanger fundamentally democracy in the country and the constitutional system, or you find a way to make it happen. This is Norm Ornstein saying this, who is a political scientist at the American Enterprise Institute. Now, I've said all this before even reading this. And so there's an openness to reform, not an openness to eliminate the filibuster, but to find a way to, at least to make this happen and maybe do something that changes the balance in which the filibuster is used, so that it once again becomes something that has a burden on the minority and can't be used quite as overwhelmingly as a weapon of mass obstruction. Because it's too easy. You have filibuster abuse now because it's too easy to use the filibuster. We go back to the interview that Chris Hayes did with Senator Cory Booker that we played on yesterday's show. The filibuster traditionally was only used once, maybe twice a year. Okay, you have filibuster abuse taking place now. Okay, read the rest of this interview here with Norm Ornstein from Vox.com, Vox.com, January 13, 2022. Kyrsten Sinema's opposition to filibuster reform rests on a myth. All right. Now, I want to go to, how's everybody doing? Share this broadcasting on social media platforms. Invite your friends to tune in. I want to go to the segment here from the readout, Joanne Reed today, dealing with what took place with Kyrsten Sinema today. We'll go to that in just a second. If you like this type of information, you support the African History Network, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN Show. Okay. And we also have the information at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. All right. Stand by because the computer's freezing up on me. Also, the online courses I teach on Saturdays and Sundays, from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968, and ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Maafa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. You can register for those. As soon as you register, you can start watching the content. So that's at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. We do the sessions live. All the sessions are archived and recorded. You can go back and watch them anytime. The classes are regularly $130. They're on sale right now. From the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement is on sale, $50. And we have a bundle pack where you can register for both classes for only $70. Okay, so even after the class is over, you can still go back and watch the entire class. So they 12 noon to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is the next class. All right, I want to go to this clip here. And this is from, do we have this queued up? I hope so. Yeah, this is from the readout today. Let's go to this clip. Hold on. It just advanced. Stand by. We got to cue this up again. All right, just a second here. I got to get past this commercial.
While I continue to support these bills, I will not support separate actions that worsen the underlying disease of division infecting our country. The debate over the Senate's 60-vote threshold shines a light on our broader challenges. There's no need for me to restate my long-standing support for the 60-vote threshold to pass legislation.
That was the conservative freshman Democratic senator from Arizona, cry-talking an hour before the president of the United States came to rally Senate Democrats to pass voting rights legislation, and basically telling him he's wasting his time. Senator Sinema paid lip service to two voting rights bills, the Freedom to Vote Act and the John R. Lewis Act, just as she's paid lip service to the late civil rights leader on Twitter and bragged about co-sponsoring the bill named in his honor. But with her dead-set opposition to changing the filibuster, she's ensuring that the bills are going nowhere. Apparently, for Senator Sinema, protecting the rights of the minority party in the Senate is more important than protecting the rights of minority voters. Over the past 24 hours, the House and the Senate worked out a complex maneuver to pass the two bills in one package, the combined Freedom to Vote John R. Lewis Act. The House passed it in a party line vote with a goal of passing it in the Senate by Monday, MLK Day. So much for that. Despite being intentionally undercut by a senator from his own party, after meeting with Senate Democrats, President Biden acknowledged the challenges ahead, but said that he would continue to fight election subversion.
I hope we can get this done. The honest to God answer is, I don't know whether we can get this done. But I know one thing, as long as I have a breath in me, as long as I'm in the White House, as long as I'm engaged at all, I'm going to be fighting to change the way these legislatures have moved.
After President Biden spoke, not to be outdone by his colleague, West Virginia conservative Democratic Senator Joe Manchin said that he, too, would not vote to eliminate or weaken the filibuster. With me now, Maria Teresa Kumar, President and CEO of Voto Latino, and Ari Berman, senior reporter for Mother Jones and author of Give Us the Ballot, The Modern Struggle for Voting Rights in America. Ari, you've been on a tear about this all day. I note the disrespect of Senator Sinema standing there, like acting all emotional, as she says, I'm killing this bill, before the president even got a chance to come down and talk to the caucus. The disrespect of that to the president, I think I mark that. But also, apparently, when the president did meet with the caucus, she didn't even listen, as John Ossoff gave a standing ovation-inducing speech passionately defending voting rights. She was looking at her phone, per NBC News reporting, looked at her phone the whole time and didn't look up until her name was mentioned, like Donald Trump would. This seems to be someone who has essentially declared that voting rights don't matter. All that matters is what Republicans want and what they desire and what they will vote for. So you, as somebody who has made it your mission, your life's work, to try to achieve, access to the ballot, where are we now?
Well, Kyrsten Sinema didn't just disrespect Joe Biden, she disrespected American democracy. And it's incredibly ironic that she called John Lewis her hero, but she's going to allow Republicans to filibuster the John Lewis Voting Rights Act on Martin Luther King Day. And really, she is allowing Republicans, her and Joe Manchin, are allowing Republicans to set the terms of the entire fight. Because what's happening is Republicans in the states are passing all of these voter suppression laws on simple majority party line votes. But Sinema is saying we can't protect voting rights in the U.S. Senate on a party line simple majority vote. And so what she's essentially saying is it's too partisan and divisive to stop laws whose entire purpose are to be partisan and divisive. So basically, Republicans are plotting the next coup. They're doing everything they can to take over election operations in every key swing state. And Sinema and Manchin are basically saying, we're not going to do anything to stop it. Imagine the message that sends to the Republican Party and the message that it sends to voters all across the country who need badly federal protection for voting rights right now.
And I hate to say it, I don't want to read into, I don't know this woman, Maria Tracy Kumar, but, she probably feels she'll be fine, right? If there's an autocratic takeover of the United States, right? She's got all these rich donor friends, she's a, well-paid white lady with like lots of friends in high places. She probably feels it ain't gonna hurt her, but her state, it might hurt quite significantly. The state of Arizona is 31.7% Latino. It's 5.2% African-American. It's 4% Asian, Pacific Islander. The indigenous population makes up 5.3% of the state. It's going to hurt somebody, but it's not going to hurt her. So she clearly doesn't give a damn. But let me not even argue with her. Let me let her argue with her. This is Kyrsten Sinema back in 2010 on the false pressure for 60 votes. Here she is.
The Democrats can stop kowtowing to Joe Lieberman and instead seek other avenues to move forward with health reform. And so it's likely that the Senate will move forward with a process called reconciliation, which takes only 51 votes. The Republicans controlled the Senate for quite some time. In fact, since around 1994, they never had 60 votes, and they managed to do a lot of really bad things during that time. So the reconciliation process is still quite available, and we will use it for good rather than for evil.
Your thoughts, MTK, as somebody who's made it your life's work and your passion to ensure that the rising majority in this country, that Latino voters have access to the ballot?
Well, Kyrsten Sinema seems to be very much of the political stripes that she'll change to whoever is calling her name the most. In this case, it seems to be being courted by the rich and the wealthy of the Republican Party. The challenge, though, is that she does not represent the interests of the state at all. You mentioned the rising electorate there. The young people that you talked about, African Americans and Latinos, are disproportionately young Arizonans. They are aging into the population. They are trying to define their future for this country. And it's by no coincidence that the modern day Jim Crow laws, coincide with the rise of young, diverse America. For the second time in a row, for the second decade in a row, Latinos were responsible for 50% of our population growth. American-born children who happen to be Latino. And when you look at states like Georgia, when you look at states like Arizona, when you look at states like Texas, together with the African-American community and the Latino community, it's an incredible force. And instead of having the Republicans compete for us on policy issues, they want to control and centralize power. And Sinema wants to be part of that apartheid autocratic government. And that's the question we should ask. We should also ask, where are the patriots on the Republican side? Where's the Mitt Romneys? Where is he? Why isn't he standing up? Because I can tell you that from what I understand from his father's legacy, which is what he claims is why he's here, his father would be completely, I believe, really upset and angry at what the Republicans are doing, because they are not talking about party politics in this case. What they are trying to do is that they are trying to erode little d democracy. As the president said the other day, voting, the access to voting, that is the threshold to a functioning democracy. What Kamala Harris said the other day at Atlanta, when she said that these voting rights are going to affect every single American, she is not wrong. Because what happens in autocratic governments is that it gets to a point where it's no longer about the color of your skin, it's the amount in your bank account. Because you centralize power on your cronies and your friends. And that is not only the antithesis of America, but it actually goes against our promise. And so what we need, and people say, well, what do we do now? We need every single American right now calling the members of Congress, calling their senators and saying that it's not okay. And we need to look for new leadership in Arizona, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was from the readout with Joanne Reed today. That was Maria Teresa Kumar and Ari Berman. Okay, the name of that clip, that's at msnbc.com, and the name of that clip is, let's see, where is that from the readout? Just a second. That's from January 13th, 2022. Voting rights expert, GOP plotting next coup as Sinema and Manchin say they won't stop it. Okay, the voting rights expert is Ari Berman, who used to write for The Nation. Now he writes, I think he writes for Mother Jones now. He used to be with thenation.com. All right. Hey, look, hey, if you like this type of information, you can support the African History Network, $ the AHN show through Cash App, $ the AHN show through Cash App, also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN show. And we're 6 days a week. This helps us keep doing the research, stay on the air, keep broadcast, helps when I have to travel also as well. When you, if you do it through Cash App, our official Cash App account is $ the AHN show through Cash App, SHOW. And when you go to it, it'll say Michael and show my picture there. These other ones here are not our Cash App accounts. These other ones here are fake African History Network Cash App accounts. Okay, so this shows our actual one here. It says Michael and shows my picture. All right, look, we have to get out of here. Remember, at the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's corrects wrong behavior. African-American business owners also email us at ahnshow@africanhistorynetwork.com. We'll let you know how you can advertise with the African History Network. Our current promotion is buy 1 month, get 2 months free also. Okay, remember, right now it's corrects wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. We'll talk